Gather around, boys and girls, and we're going to tell you about a time about roughly a summer ago where we had the opportunity to buy games from an immaculate, amazing collection.
It changed our lives.
It did.
As the story goes, it was two middle-aged women who are big-time gamers, and basically whatever the current gen was, they would buy like a game or more a week, and they kept them, and they always kept up with whatever the newest console out was. And now with the rise of retro game values, they ran into some money troubles and decided that they needed to sell some of the old games they never played anymore.
Oh, did he mention that they took amazing care of their boxes too? They basically probably put them on a shelf and never dinged, scratched anything.
I'm fairly certain all the games I bought have never been sneezed on.
Yeah.
No, there's very few dust particles, it seems like, that have ever even settled on the cases of these.
I do believe that they used, like, you know, those, like, doctor's tweezers to turn the pages for the manuals. Either that or they never even looked at them, because it looks like they were just pressed.
Every time they touched one of these games or boxes, they probably were wearing latex gloves as they did it.
Which is good, because typically we find stuff that it looks like people have wiped their asses with. Now, the store that we've purchased these games from is a store that we've had an episode on before, and that's Video Game Underground in Toledo, Ohio.
Video Game Underground has the best video games in town. Video Game Underground has the best prices on games around.
Yeah, the owner is very friendly, and I'm really glad that of everybody, it was him that kind of hit the jackpot with getting these to come into a store. Probably it's like a once-in-a-lifetime thing to have somebody have, like, not only the quality, but the quantity, and there are going to be really good titles you saw. And it also goes beyond what we picked up. We weren't the only people to get our hands on the collection. Like, weren't there some other YouTubers?
What was cool is that a lot of other YouTubers somehow got their hands in this collection as well that aren't even from Ohio. Like JHMDF, Scott Squatch, he got a huge stack of stuff. Everything from Super Nintendo. I think he got Sega and maybe even Sega CD stuff as well.
The good news is, though, because we were local and because Mike at Video Game Underground is awesome, we kind of got the inside scoop. Now, the scope of what was brought into this store is just an insane amount, and we're talking just quality. But because of the value, Mike couldn't buy everything all at one time, so he kind of bought sections here and there. So it was like every week he would buy a new section, and he would be like, "Hey guys, this is what I'm getting this week. You know, if you want something." Now, I guess we'll start with the Nintendo 64 stuff. I'm the only one that bought any Nintendo 64 stuff, and I guess in really no particular order, we'll just kind of go through what I picked up. And again, you'll see the quality of how nice these were. Now, first one is going to be Winback. I mean, this is as close as a Nintendo fan in the 64 era was going to come to a Metal Gear game. I remember renting this a bunch as a kid. It was pretty fun. The battling was cool. I mean, the only thing that I guess wasn't awesome for me, it seemed like it got kind of repetitive and, you know, things kind of drug on, but it had been years since I played it. It was extremely inexpensive and mint condition, so, you know, I had to pick it up. It's a pretty solid game overall. Then we have Pilot Wing 64. I mean,
I love that game.
Who wasn't playing this bad boy on launch day? I mean, really?
You had to have it when the system came out.
If you were alive when the system came out, and, you know, I certainly didn't get it day one, but I had a friend that did. I mean, we played the hell out of this game, and it was almost as much fun, you know, crashing into stuff or taking pictures of wild stuff. I mean, this was one of the games that just, you know, amazed what the Nintendo 64 could do about 3D and how open the worlds could be, and you could kind of go anywhere you wanted to go and explore. I mean, it was just different than anything at its time. You know, the 64 was awesome in the fact that it was the first home console, you know, to standard come with the ability to have 4 players. obviously Mario parties. There's so many great games you could have for people come over and, you know, for your friends come over and play. So, I mean, one of them that I feel like doesn't get enough recognition is definitely this one.
Oh my god.
And that's Mario Tennis. I mean, how much damn fun have we had with this game?
We've had so many, countless tournaments of Mario Tennis. People get so heated at each other. It's such a fun.
It has caused fisticuffs. That's for sure.
It's a great multiplayer game.
I mean, it's awesome. I mean, GoldenEye's great. Mario Kart's great. The Mario parties are great. But this game is just, I mean, it's just epic fun. I mean, get 4 of your friends together and pick this up. It's still pretty inexpensive. Just buy it. This may be the most valuable game in my Nintendo 64 collection. And that's Knockout Kings 2000. Yeah, I had it upside down. A lot of people shit on the sports titles and they're not valuable. I don't care. This game was awesome. You know, another thing that was really cool, you know, with the Nintendo 64 and all the sports games, football, whatever, I mean, the ability to create your own player and even modify the facial characteristics to kind of try and resemble yourself was just fun. I mean, the play mechanics were fun. The announcing was fun. You know, you're done, son. You're done. You know, this was just a cool, fun boxing game. Have you guys enjoyed Knockout Kings?
Never played it.
Yeah, most of these games I've played minimally. I think during this era I was playing Diablo 2 non-stop day in and day out.
And then my brother was playing it too, and I'd get on the phone line and disconnect him, just piss him off. or like just completely delete his whole record of everything off the computer. That was always fun.
What do you have? Oh, okay, I was going to say.
Next, you know, this is a pretty hard one to find. It isn't exclusive to the Blockbuster. Well, I don't think it was exclusive to Blockbuster. I think you could order it through certain channels. I don't really know all of that history, but I mean, I love Indiana Jones. I mean, he's the shit, and you know, this game's pretty fun. It's definitely, you know, it's definitely the Tomb Raider on 64. That's the best way that I can compare it to. I mean, you know, with games of this time, you're fighting with some of the camera angles, but overall, this is a pretty fun game, pretty hard to find. You know, I really enjoy it. This obviously was a game that the ladies that had this collection must have bought from Blockbuster. It still has the sticker on the back. Amazingly enough, the box has survived very well. I mean, even the manual and everything is still in really good shape. So, I mean, it must not have been a rental for very long. So, you know.
Yeah, Tomb Raider minus the silicone is what I'm gathering from that.
That is true. I mean, you've got, you know, you're replacing the silicone with, you know, balls of steel. So,
I was a Tomb Raider guy.
Next one is, you know, Konami Hybrid Heaven. Honestly, haven't got to put much time into this game. I never rented it, but it's Konami, and from what I hear, it's kind of like action adventure with some RPG elements mixed in. So, you know, gotta give that a whirl. Duke Nukem 0 Hour. You know, again, I've minimal time put in this. I mean, such a departure from the first person of Duke Nukem 3D, Duke Nukem 64. What little bit I've played seems to be pretty fun. But unfortunately, like I say, I mean, this is one that's on my list to play. My backlog's a mile long, so. This game I never played growing up. I never rented it, so this was something, you know, I had heard about more recently, but I had to have it. And that's Conker's Bad Fur Day. Again, Minty McMinterton. I have played through it. For me, you know, it's pretty fun. A lot of people think and say that it's probably their favorite 64 game. Personally, I mean, it started off a little slow for me, but towards the end really picked up. But what's really cool is that this takes so many genres and kind of puts it into one game on top of all the 3D exploration. And then, of course, stealing elements from different games or different parts of history and kind of making fun of it. I mean, this is a really cool game if you ever get a chance to pick it up. And that concludes the Nintendo 64 crap that I bought. I know, Scott was over here like, that stuff sucks.
Different strokes for different folks, you could say.
Well, what do you guys want to talk about next?
Well, we're either going to go Sega CD or Saturn.
Might as well go Saturn. Like, Crumb's the only one that bought Saturn stuff. Crumb's the only one that has a Saturn.
Well, now we're at the Sega Saturn portion of their collection, and the first game I picked up here is Shining Wisdom, which is a Working Designs title. I feel kind of bad actually because I think I put this in for roughly 10 to 15 seconds or so and then kind of moved on to the next game. Not saying that this game's bad or anything. I really don't have much to say about it, but people have told me it is a pretty fun action RPG, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, is it like Zelda?
Yeah. Action RPG-esque, but I'm going to play this at some point, just not anytime that soon. Here's one we have definitely got our fair share of play on, and that's Guardian Heroes. This game is awesome action, beat 'em up, kind of RPG elements, yeah, like leveling up. It's 6 players, which is freaking awesome. I still have yet to get the adapter to have more controllers hooked up, but you can jump between the 3 different planes. It's just an awesome action game. If you're into like beat 'em ups and stuff, I would definitely play this.
Right. That game has the Street Fighter moves in it.
Oh,
We've
yeah.
only played it with 2 players so far, but there's a lot of depth to it and it is difficult. I want to beat it, but we might need the extra players to get through it.
Definitely. And then I guess the motherlode of Sega Saturn games, and let's just say I was eating like 50-cent burritos for a while, like after buying this, but Panzer Dragoon Saga. I had this game in my collection before, which is really funny because I bought it from the same guy, Mike from Video Game Underground, but it was his personal copy. I ended up selling later on for Magic the Gathering cards, which I definitely regret.
Good move.
now.
Good move.
And then I was like, damn it, I have to get this game back in my collection. Where am I going to get another good deal? And it shows up in his shop again from these ladies' collection, and it was in mint condition. The only thing that isn't original about this copy is the CD sleeves. Actually, yeah, to conserve on space for their Sega CD and Saturn games, what they did is they threw away the plastic jewel cases, but they kept all the original manuals, back art. But for whatever reason, they threw away the little brown. I guess there's 2 different variant colors for like the disc sleeves. But anyways, I got a really good deal on this, especially for the time it was sold to me. I think it was like he charged me $190, which at the time I was like, I pretty much snapped judgment bought it because I was like, man, this thing's going for like $3+ easy on eBay, and there's so many things to say about this game. It's supposed to be Saturn's rival to Final Fantasy VII, and I think it lives up to the hype in every aspect. So if you get a chance to check this out on emulators, or if you get a chance to find this copy somewhere in the wild, definitely pick it up. And that's all the Saturn games, I believe.
We might as well move on to Sega CD.
Yeah, keep it disc-based. I'll start it out. I never owned a Sega CD before this. I knew there were good games available for it, but what you will see for some systems like Saturn, Sega CD, PC Engine CD, it's one thing to get the system, but it's another thing to actually get your hands on the games. Like, they can be hard to track down, and they're very collectible, at least the good ones are. I knew this was my opportunity to get into Sega CD because there was a bunch of good games available. So I purchased the console from Mike at VGUG, and then here's what else I got with it. This is like this is 90% of my Sega CD collection. Starting out, I'm going to talk about some shooters I got, and the first one is Sylpheed. It's a game I haven't really played yet, and I will admit it. It's a space combat game, and I know it has been re-released for a couple different consoles like PlayStation, and it might have appeared on PC as well. I know it was good and it was cheap, so it's a good starting point. The next one here is Android Assault, and this is a horizontal shooter. And from what I've played to it, it has good graphics, it plays well, there's not a lot of slowdown. The CD soundtrack is awesome, and I would say this is one of your above average 16-bit shooters, and it's going up in price a little bit, so I would recommend it. My personal favorite of the shmups from this collection would be Lords of Thunder. I actually had it on Wii Virtual Console for the TurboGrafx 16, but I had to have the real thing. And this one's a little bit different from that version. The soundtrack is the same, but they re-recorded it. Like, the instruments are a little bit different. It's a lot of fun, though. I love how there's a shop where you can buy things in between levels. And
You can choose what levels to start with.
Yeah.
I have
Right.
I have the Turbo CD version, and I have honestly never played the Sega CD version, but I know they're similar enough. I mean, yeah, it's a kick-ass shoot 'em up. I mean,
It's cool. It's got the
really
fantasy
good.
theme
Yeah.
to it, you know. I played it on normal and hard and went through it, and there's even a more difficult mode that maybe at some point I'll give it a shot.
I mean, if you're like road raging in the car, you could listen to the soundtrack and you would get through it. It's awesome.
Alright, this next one is a game I probably would not have owned if not for Crumb. And it is Heart of the Alien, which is Out of This World Part 1 and 2. Crumb is the one who introduced me to this title.
You can't get the sequel on any other system, Sega CD only, but Out of This World is on pretty much every system, but yeah, I grew up playing the crap out of This World and Heart of the Alien, and this was the copy I grew up on playing on Sega CD, so it's a ridiculously awesome game. It's influenced developers like around the world, and it's a freaking fun game.
Yeah, it's got like an immersive story, and the graphics were pretty good for the time.
The animation for its day was pretty cool, and I mean, the control reminds you of a Prince of Persia type game.
A lot of memorization.
Yeah.
Where you're going, where you're headed.
A lot of timing because of the all of the frames of animation. You've got to time your jumps a little earlier than you're not just gonna buzz through it like a standard platform type game. So.
Yeah.
Next up, I had to get Sonic CD. If I'm going to have a Sega CD collection, it has to have Sonic in it. Because growing up, I was the biggest Sonic fan. I would take it over Mario any day of the week.
That's true. I can say we probably
We're
all.
Sonic.
I mean, 8-bit era, we were definitely on the. At least Crumb and I were on the Nintendo train. But what's really odd is that in the 16-bit era, all three of us were Genesis
Sega.
warriors. I mean, Super Nintendo sucked. Sega.
Right, so, I mean, this one's a little bit different. There's time travel elements, and some of the levels are very like erratic. The way like Sonic bounces around things.
Well, and that one was not done by Sonic Team either. Wasn't
Really?
that the first? I'm pretty sure that was the first Sonic game that wasn't done by Sonic Team. So.
Oh, the anime introduction was so badass. I loved it. I loved it so much.
Yes.
It was awesome. Okay, I am a big fighting game fan, so I picked up Fatal Fury Special.
'Cause he's special.
But it's an SNK fighting game. We've all heard of Fatal Fury. I haven't played it a whole lot, but I enjoy fighting games, and I could just sit down and probably go through the arcade mode, pick out a character, and check it out. I think this one's a little bit harder to actually get your hands on. And that's another thing, of course, why I bought it. But, I don't know, it's a pretty cool game. I don't know when I'm going to find the time to get into this
You might as
next
well
one.
boast them both out.
Oh, you know what? Well, I got this one from VGUG. This one came from the collection. It's in awesome condition, and this is the first Lunar. As you know about classic RPGs, you gotta have a certain amount of time to be able to sink into them. And I have to be in the right mindset. But this one should be good.
I mean, in all reality, if you see this symbol on anything, I mean, you might as well buy it. It's generally going to be pretty good. So,
Working designs, well known. You know, this one right here did not come from the VGUG collection. I saw it laying around and I just got the box and the manual. So this is a to be continued thing. Okay, but I gotta hand it to Dash he's the one who alerted us that this collection came into VGUG. And I'm like, no kidding, man. And me and Crumb got over there immediately.
Flew over there.
We had to check it out. And I was not previously a Sega CD collector, but I had to dip my toes into it and get it. And
I do believe Scott bought these games before he even owned a Sega CD, so let me just put that out there.
Yeah, that is right. I got the games first. The hard part is getting the games. And I was so happy to see this one right here, Final Fight, which is very much enhanced from the Super Nintendo port because it's 2 players. You gotta have 2 players if you're gonna play a beat 'em up.
Definitely.
If it's gonna be a truly great beat 'em up.
I mean, this is the definitive version of this game. The soundtrack is the best. All the characters are there. I mean, it's a great game. It's definitely pretty challenging. Lucky for Scott, I was able to get, there was an additional loose disc available, so I'm a little bummed. You know, neither of them had the original box, which would be nice to track down. I don't have a manual, but I'm happy just to play the game. It's an awesome beat 'em up.
Yep. I called Desh on the phone and I told him what I picked up. I said I got Final Fight and then also this game right here, which is my favorite. This is the greatest game I bought from this whole VGUG collection. Shining Force CD. It has the Shining Force that was released on the Sega Game Gear, which is redone with better graphics, CD soundtrack, and it's got additional chapters to the story, which were never before released in the USA. And I used to have the Game Gear version. I was stoked to play this one. I went right through it, man. I invested the time, and it was worth every single moment. The soundtrack is phenomenal. The graphics are much better than what I had seen before from the Game Gear, and I just love the series now. It is absolutely unbelievable, and I'm disappointed that I didn't get the Shining Force 3 that was available for the Saturn. That was in this collection as well, but at the time I didn't own a Saturn either, and I spent a bunch of money.
Damn it, Scott Squatch, you probably bought that or something.
Yeah, I'm really sad that I didn't get to buy this.
Desh wanted this one, and he's like, "Wait, you bought what game?"
I was salty.
I was unaware of that personally, but Desh got a couple other things that I would have.
And don't worry, I've not let him forget about it ever. I think every time I see him, I bring it up. I'm like, oh,
But
sweet Shining Force.
what can I say? It's not. It didn't just sit on my shelf. I was playing it, and I was loving every
And
minute.
I'll borrow it from him one of these days.
This game was so badass, though. Oh, the last one for Sega CD I got from the collection is Prince of Persia, which is one of the older games like Final Fight, so it came in the cardboard box, and it didn't come in this collection. Another older game with great animation. It's on a lot of different systems. Go check it out.
Speaking of the original games that came with cardboard boxes, there was a couple of them that I picked up. First one's Batman Returns. A lot of people don't talk about Batman Returns on any of the platforms, but I think the Batman Returns games on every platform were pretty much beat 'em ups, and they were solid. I mean, I remember renting the one on Nintendo. That's what I had at the time, and I own it. And it's certainly not the best game ever, but it's pretty fun. This puts driving levels in there as well. I mean, the difficulty on this game is pretty up there, but overall pretty enjoyable experience. It's an inexpensive game, so it's one I'd recommend if you can find it pretty cheap. I also picked up Chuck Rock, which I can kind of remember playing it on Genesis. It's a average platformer, but the graphics are pretty awesome. The level design leaves a little bit to be desired, but overall it's a pretty solid game. Along with that, I did get the sequel, Chuck Rock 2. Basically kind of, a little bit more of the same. I haven't really played Chuck Rock 2 a ton, so, I can't really tell you everything about it, but, platformers for the most part. I also picked up, Road Avenger, which I'm personally not a huge FMV lover, but, anything that has to do with cars, I love, and it's just a pretty enjoyable story to watch. I mean, the art is really good, the music's good, it's so Japanese, it's ridiculous, so, another pretty cool game to pick up. Crumb, did you get anything? I've got some more, but you should talk about one that you got.
I only picked up one Sega CD game out of the mega collection from those ladies, but that game is Popful Mail. Gosh, I probably played this game for a few short hours only, but it's another Working Designs title. It's a side-scrolling action, kind of like Wonder Boy. I know Scott's really big into the Wonder Boy games, but I've actually since sold this game to Scott, so this is now Scott's.
I'll take that.
Take that.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you very
That
much.
is also a game. I mean, there's probably 5 games on my want list for Sega CD, and that happens to be one of them. So,
Crumb, I think you got this for $100.
Yeah, it was somewhere like right around that mark.
Good luck trying to go get this for $100 out there.
yeah, no kidding. I actually picked up a couple more Sega CD items. I mean, unfortunately, Scott went in and swooped in like the 2 sweet ones that I really wanted, but I picked up a couple more. Wild Woody. My Woody is wild, so I had to get it. You know, it's just the thing about this game is it's a platformer, but there's some really crazy stuff you can do. You actually can erase the enemies. So I mean, the art style and the game design were pretty cool for the time. So it's worth a look, and it's not a real expensive game either. Next one, I never heard of it, and I solely bought it on the ridiculous name of this game, and that's Revengers of Vengeance. It's a fighting game, but an RPG. I don't really know how to explain this game. It's really weird. It's really hard. It's almost so impossible that like I can't even really beat the first character that you're supposed to fight. I don't understand how anyone could. So it's just kind of one of those random titles that you just pick up, and it seems like it's got some potential. It could be good. It's just beyond. It goes right over my head. And then the other one was Demolition Man, which is actually a really good game. I mean, they mix side-scrolling kind of run and gun platforming, and then also like some above view run and gun type stuff. I love run and gun games. Of course, it's on the Sega CD, so they got to throw in FMV clips from the movie to make it amazing. This is a really solid title. You should definitely pick this up.
I don't care what anybody says about Demolition Man. I grew up playing the Sega Genesis version, but it's so fast paced, so much fun. I mean, what is better than sliding down zip lines, like shooting crap, blowing up C4 tanks, and then the above you levels remind me of like True Lies on Super Nintendo, which is freaking awesome.
Yeah, yeah. I think I almost prefer the above view. I think it's I don't know, because typically I'm a side-scrolling lover when it comes to run and guns, but the above view on this game is like just those are my favorite levels for sure. I got a couple more things. First one is I don't know the original box that the ladies must have got rid of, but the RAM backup cart, which is like a must own if you have a Sega CD, because typically some of the larger games, if you're saving something, it takes up your entire memory, and so you basically are stuck playing that game till it's finished. So get yourself a RAM cart. And then this was a game I actually had on Genesis growing up. I know Chrome did.
Look at the size of that box.
What a badass game. I mean, I remember playing this thing in the arcade. When it came to home consoles, it was really cool. In fact, my brother and I didn't even buy this. This game, on the Genesis version at least, was like in the bargain bin at a local rental place, and my dad bought it. My dad's literally the one who's like, we have to have this game. He wanted to play it. So, as the story goes, we got it. And then I actually do have the pink Justifier also. It was something you had to mail in with part of the paperwork from the original game. So I actually have 3 Justifiers. I have 2 blue ones, one from the box set for the Genesis and this, and then the pink one that we had ordered. But, I mean, this is basically the Genesis version with, like, the arcade soundtrack. So it is the best. Definitely better than the Super Nintendo version because, Sega does what Nintendo.
Because Sega.
Yeah.
The Christmas morning, 1993, when I opened up my Sega CD, this was the reason I had Sega CD.
Yes.
I opened it up with the system. It kicks so much ass.
It is so good. even to this day. The sequel is the sequel is playable too. I think more for laughs.
Yeah, the audio tracks. I want to showcase that at some point.
Yeah.
The repetitiveness of you can't hit the broadside of a barn.
Yeah.
You ain't gonna get me.
You ain't
Sheriff.
gonna get me, Sheriff. All right. I feel like we need to talk about Genesis.